It's a quiet morning on Robin Hood Road in Norfolk, Virginia. The asphalt is empty, blocked off by lengths of yellow tape and a line of patrol cars stretching across the street. Officers from the Norfolk Police Department stand at a distance, watching a small, silent object sitting on the pavement. To the neighbors peering through their windows, this is a sudden and frightening emergency security alert. To the local dispatch, it's labeled simply as a suspicious device. For the next few hours, this residential block is placed under a total evacuation order. A high-tech tactical team moves in, conducting a slow, deliberate investigative sweep of the area. The machinery of public safety is out in full force, treating this single square foot of concrete like a potential disaster zone. Then the official status is updated on the department's display. The device is deemed safe. It wasn't a weapon, and it wasn't a sophisticated hoax designed to look like a bomb. It was simply a mundane piece of urban detritus that didn't look like it belonged on the street. But for half a day, the high-cost infrastructure of a major city was paralyzed by the mere sight of it. This scene is becoming a routine failure across the modern grid. From the state server rooms in South Dakota to the dry taps of the Waterbury water system, our most advanced utilities are stalling out. We are told our infrastructure is seamless, automated, and purely digital. But in reality, the digital and physical survival of the modern world rests on the physical layer. It rests on the legibility of a handwritten tag and the placement of everyday objects. If a single suspicious device can freeze a neighborhood, who is actually in charge of the systems we trust with our lives? This is the story of the two-day label. The police cordon on Robin Hood Road was a response to a security alert, but it was also a symptom of a deeper institutional anxiety. We live in an era where the public utility system is supposed to be smarter and safer than ever before. We treat the flow of water and electricity like a law of nature, invisible and constant. But in San Francisco, that invisibility is starting to fade. The San Francisco Board of Supervisors has begun to blast PG&E over a series of utility failures. They've launched a formal inquiry citing a demand for accountability for the city's power grid. While supervisors debate policy, other systems are suffering total physical collapses. In Waterbury, residents recently endured a 6-day water system outage. For nearly a week, thousands of people lived without running water in their homes. The city eventually issued work orders for emergency repairs to the water system. They had to dig into the ground to find the specific water system pipes that had failed. On a digital dashboard, these networks look like a public utility system of the future. We are promised a seamless, automated grid where every valve and circuit is monitored in real time. But this high-tech veneer is draped over a sprawling, aging utility infrastructure. These systems are massive, complex, and terrifyingly interconnected. When a part of the grid fails, the official explanation is usually a technical error or a major outage. These phrases suggest a digital glitch or a complex software bug. But the real vulnerabilities are much more tangible than a line of code. They are buried in the physical details we've spent decades trying to automate away. To understand how a city can be paralyzed by a single object, you have to look at how these systems are actually held together. On October 31st, 2025, every government screen in South Dakota went dark. It was a total digital paralysis of the state's IT systems that lasted for 48 hours. Initially, the panic followed a predictable script. Officials feared a sophisticated, state-sponsored cyber attack designed to cripple the capital in Pierre. They looked for digital intrusions, backdoors, and malicious foreign code within the software. But the breach didn't happen in the cloud. It happened inside the South Dakota IT facilities. A technician walked into the server rack room and clicked on a flashlight. They weren't looking at a monitor, they're looking at a chaotic tangle of physical hardware. Thousands of feet of fiber optics and copper bundled together in the dark. Then they found it. It wasn't a malicious script from an elite hacker in a remote location. It was mislabeled wires. A series of critical physical cables had been plugged into the wrong ports. The error was eventually traced back to the illegible, hand-scrawled handwriting on their tags. For 2 days, an entire state government was offline because a technician misidentified a piece of tape. This is the 2-day IT outage that no firewall in the world could have prevented. The system stops looking smart when the mislabeled wires responsible are finally held up to the light. It's the moment the digital layer surrenders to a mundane, physical error. The entire infrastructure was paralyzed by a single, peeling label. The friction doesn't stay contained within a single server room. On April 6, 2026, a major outage hits the Russian banking and metro systems. Across multiple regions, the payment terminals simply stopped responding. Commuters were left standing at frozen turnstiles, swiping phones that no longer spoke to the gates. It was a total digital breakdown that left millions of people physically stranded in transit. In the United States, the failures are just as persistent. Waterbury residents reached the end of their 6-day water system outage. For nearly a week, the taps had been dry while the city logged hours of emergency repairs. The official status remained stuck in a loop of investigative sweeps and system checks. By January, the frustration turned into political fallout. The San Francisco Board of Supervisors began to blast PG&E. They launched a formal inquiry into the public utility system. The supervisors are demanding accountability for the December outages that paralyzed parts of the city. They are looking for a sophisticated cause, a systemic failure they can regulate. But the utility providers are struggling with a more basic reality. The public utility system isn't just a digital dashboard in a control room. It's a network of aging water system pipes and miles of physical infrastructure. Every time a system fails, the official explanation is a technical error. But these errors are increasingly traced back to the most mundane physical triggers. The digital layer we use to manage our lives is showing its cracks. It is terrifyingly subordinate to the physical world it was designed to replace. Back on Robin Hood Road, the yellow tape is gone. The suspicious device was cleared away and deemed safe trash. The residents returned to their homes, and the neighborhood resumed its quiet routine. But the tactical sweep wasn't the only investigation to close with a shrug. In South Dakota, the mislabeled wires were eventually tagged with new printed labels. Officials state the 2-day IT outage is resolved, though the total financial cost was never disclosed. In Waterbury, the emergency repairs are finished, but the pipes under the street are still decades old. The San Francisco Board of Supervisors is still holding its inquiry into the public utility system. PG&E remains under intense scrutiny, facing a demand for accountability from the public. For now, the lights are on and the metro gates are open. Our entire digital landscape relies on these fragile, physical connections. Systems worth billions of dollars, held together by the stickiness of a plastic tag. Look closely at a server rack or a water main today. You might see a single yellowed label starting to peel.